Kanupriya. I am so happy to finally be doing this podcast with you. Thank you for coming in with me today.
No, it was a pleasure. It's my honor to be at your podcast.
Uh, okay, just cut into the chase a bit because I am trying to understand how did you develop your interest in criminology out of all the different things available to you.
Yeah, so when people look at my work or search for me on LinkedIn, it seems like a very deliberate journey into criminology, but honestly, it wasn't.
Yes,
I did my undergrad in psychology honors from Punjab University, Chandigarh, India. And at the time, I didn't have much exposure. So I just knew I had to excel, especially because I had taken up humanities. And back then,
uh,
humanities was seen as something that people choose when they didn't have other options available for them. It
yes,
wasn't like a deliberate choice that people make. So there
yes,
was that pressure of to prove that you've made the right choice and to perform exceptionally well in whatever
yes,
you've chosen, because you've chosen humanities. And I was actually at that point of time leaning a lot towards journalism. So I liked telling stories, writing about people, the social world around them. And so I decided I will pursue a postgraduate diploma in journalism from Asian College of Journalism. And after doing my postgraduate journalism degree, I joined Hindustan Times as a trainee sub-editor. And I was on the metro desk, which means I got a lot of stories related to crime in Delhi. And it was in 2012 when I joined Hindustan Times. So just 6 months into my job, the 2012 Delhi gang rape happened, and it completely shifted something in me. The media frenzy around it was unbelievable. Headlines, breaking news, the national outrage. But what really struck me was what was missing from the narrative, which was the accused side of the story, and especially the juvenile who was sort of tried in the Delhi gang rape. And there was almost no space for understanding who the offender was, what structures produce violence, and instead it became a story about punishment, vengeance, projecting them as monsters, grotesque creatures, and the coverage became so sensational. And even as journalists and sitting on the desk at that time, we were choosing which crimes were worthy of outrage and which
yes,
ones aren't. And I remember at that time there were other gang rapes happening, but they were not covered in the same capacity. And that dissonance really stayed with me. And eventually I decided I need to leave journalism and I need to understand the system beyond the headlines. And so
yes, from
I
the top. Yeah.
yeah, so I joined a master's in social work with a specialization in criminology and justice. And I went to TISS, which is one of the biggest social science institutes in India. And that's where I started working on the ground um, in criminology specifically. Later, I worked with an anti-human trafficking organization, which mostly worked with minors. And there as well, I sort of was faced with a lot of cases which involved sort of consensual sex between minors, but was tried as rape. Um, and so I was again very much interested. I began to see how criminal justice system often criminalizes certain population or certain section of the people, especially young people from certain caste and class backgrounds, women, and those without social power, essentially. And that's when I started getting more and more interested in the subject. And I thought that I'd want to go back into academia. And I decided I wanted to pursue a master's in criminology specifically. I applied to Cambridge. Luckily, I got through. So I did my MPhil in criminology from Cambridge.
Okay.
Um,
On that
later,
note, it's kind of not fast forwarding you. I'm going to take free time with you, but how are just applying to Cambridge? You know, Cambridge was a place for you. Was your mind made from the start?
not really.
Okay.
So I applied, I remember, back in 2016. Um, and there was no LinkedIn at that time. So there wasn't much awareness. There weren't people talking about applying abroad. There was no cold emailing system. Uh, Google didn't have much information. There was
Yeah.
no option doing virtual calls at the time. So I was basically very clueless, very lonely throughout the journey of my application. And I remember there was one journalist friend of mine who helped me sort of edit some of my SOPs for grammar. But all of the storytelling I had to do myself. I had to figure out all on my own through the website of the university what they really wanted. And it was just like applying blindly, basically. Um, and it was very, very challenging. And I remember that I applied to Oxford and Cambridge only because those were the kind of institutions that were offering the kind of research or the space where I wanted to do such kind of research. And the Prisons Research Center at Criminology is one of the most famous and one of the most sort of intellectually stimulating. And I thought this was the place I want to be. I applied, luckily I got through, but because I didn't have much awareness, I missed the scholarship deadline.
Yeah.
And so I could not apply to any scholarships. And there was only one scholarship that I could apply to, and that was department led. And that was very little and contributed very little to the tuition fee. So this time, my parents' savings, and I went to do a master's in criminology. But when I applied for a PhD at that time, I had learned my lesson a hard way. And I thought that I would apply on time, I would do these things. I was already in the academic system by the
Yeah.
time, so I knew what they were looking for. Um, and I knew the supervisors I wanted to work with, but it wasn't easy at all. And so Cambridge was transformative, but very challenging. So one of the first struggles I faced was finding a supervisor because my research was grounded in India, in women's experiences of incarceration in two states across India. And very few people in the department really understood the context where I was coming from. So they would say, oh, it's fascinating, but it didn't quite fit within their frameworks of criminology or justice.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking, do I adapt my work to fit the Western template of what counts as legitimate knowledge? Or do I stay true to what I know matters,
Yeah.
even if it
Yeah.
doesn't translate neatly into what they wanted? So that tension was constant. And it left me feeling caught in this in between space. And I started to think of it as a kind of like me being in an academically liminal space where I'm trying to nurture my cultural and intellectual self while existing in an institution that wasn't really designed for scholars like myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you end up translating everything, your work, your experiences, your journey in a language that's palatable to the institution. And that translation over time feels like an erasure and a constant burden. And I remember that I approached so many potential supervisors, and everybody was reluctant to supervise me because they were not comfortable with the jurisdiction I was doing my research in.
Oh, yeah. The academia in the Western and South Asian can, it's not just polar apart, it's just like, how do we adapt? Are they not adapting? What is going on? Yeah.
And even now, when people from the global south like really approach me with their PhD proposals, they often have this question: do I adapt these questions to suit Western knowledge systems?
Yeah.
Or do I stick to what I really want to research? Because why would they be interested in researching what's happening in South Asia, for instance? And I always tell them, stick to what you're passionate about. Don't try to fit your research into Western academic knowledge systems or Western systems of how things are done.
Oh,
Because
okay.
the beauty of research lies
Great.
in what you're doing and what you want to do, and be brave, be fearless. And if they want to take you in, they will take you in for what you have to offer to them, not because they're offering something to do, because they need you as much as you need them.
Uh, if they
Um,
are, if they're not having that much knowledge about global south, for example, for lack of better word, like say global south, but in their criminology experience that you are bringing to the program, it's only helping them from out here.
Exactly, exactly. And that was my primary reason why, when I got into the PhD program, I started the Cambridge Decolonizing Criminology Network. And
Yeah.
um, because I wanted to create space for scholars like myself, um, where they can explore knowledge in the way they want to explore. Where they can read things that they want to read. Where I can encourage indigenous, non-Western, and sort of subaltern scholarship
Yeah.
that's coming from our part of the world, because those knowledge systems are important and they have equal contribution to theory and to knowledge production in
Yeah.
criminology. And I remember decolonizing at that time was entering into the global sort of conversations because the Rhodes Must Fall campaign had started in Oxford. There was George Floyd's killing in the US. So the word decolonizing was gaining momentum, but in practice, it was often abstract. And I remember when I started the network, I was doing it all alone, and there was no roadmap, no institutional safety net. There was no staff members who were actively supporting me at that point,
Yeah.
and it came an emotional burden of representation. That feeling that I had to succeed not just for myself, because I am somehow representing this community behind me, which is the largest South Asian community. So you are expected to join every EDI committee to speak for diversity because you are the only brown person in the department, to educate others
Yeah,
about
that's
inclusion,
so much
and all
burden.
by
Yeah.
the time you survive and finish your own PhD. And that burden is not to be taken lightly. And it's a burden that falls on every Black, brown person that's there in these white elite institutions.
Um,
Um, and they see us as this ethnic minority, whereas we are not used to being the minority in our part of the world where we come from. Um, and then there's this reality outside the university gates. And you would like to think of this university as a like a safe space, and in some ways it is. But
yeah.
then you step outside, and you're called things like, I remember on the street, I have been called things like, "Why don't you go back to your country?" Or you're called a chicken nugget. And it's jarring, and it makes you wonder, what does safety really mean in these university spaces that we come to because it's our dream institution. Um, and with the growing anti-immigrant sentiment in the UK currently, physical
Yeah.
safety is not the only measure. What about emotional, psychological, or intellectual safety? Are we feeling safe enough to speak, to question, and belong without fear? And that your words will not be used against you, and that you
Yeah.
can actually produce knowledge that you really want to do.
Yeah.
Um, being safe in that sense is also a question that I always ask people who come to these spaces,
Yeah.
thinking that they would get the interesting research that they want to do. And I think all aspirants should be asking this question to themselves: why do they want to go abroad and study
Oh, yeah.
um, before
Yeah.
even applying?
Yeah. I think you navigated however challenging it was. I remember there was no LinkedIn at all, but you eventually found a supervisor. How did you go? How did you program now when I think you graduated and you're now in a postdoc?
Yes, exactly. So the one thing that was easier for me to find a supervisor was because I was already doing an MPhil in Cambridge.
Okay.
When you enter into an academic space like that, you get to network. So which is why I always also advise some people to do another master's in the UK, because it gives you like an insider knowledge of what a PhD is about, whether this is the correct supervisor to be working under, or is this the right institution for you?
Yeah.
Is this the right space that gives you um, the platform to sort of hone your research skills?
Yeah.
And these were the questions that I got my answers for when I did my MPhil. And I think that that was a great opportunity for me to interact with different people and to see who I want to be supervised by. And that made it a lot more easier for me. But for people straight applying for a PhD program, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah. Yeah.
it's challenging, because then you have nobody to tell you who is the right supervisor for you, and because being a supervisor is very different from being an educator. So they could be like brilliant in their fields, but they might not be great supervisors when it comes to
Yes.
one-on-one
Yeah.
discussions. So these sort of insider sort of knowledge tips and tips about who to apply to, how to approach your potential supervisor, what to write in the email when you're approaching them, how to find the right fit for you. Should we look at universities? Should we look at courses? Should we look at departments or the right supervisors? Like, what are the things that you should keep in mind when you're applying for a PhD? Comes with this insider knowledge, and which is why I think mentorship is really important, because when you have a mentor who has been through this process themselves, they can give you that insider knowledge that you need when you are
Yeah.
applying for these universities. And I think it really helped me because I was already in that space for my master's. So it
Yeah.
made a little bit easier for me to navigate all of these questions, but still it wasn't easy because I had to do all the scholarship applications myself with little or no guidance. And as South Asians, we tend to sort of really undersell our achievements. So
Yeah.
I
Big
didn't know how to
time.
sell them on paper, right? And I was applying to this Gates Cambridge scholarship, which is a very American-based scholarship. And people would often tell me, oversell your achievements. Don't be shy of telling what you have really done. But I was shy because I thought I didn't want to say everything that I had to say,
Yeah.
I might come across as really sort of overselling my
Yeah.
achievements, or
Plug in. Yeah.
I'm being fake or I'm not being true to myself. Like, how do I actually present myself by keeping this delicate balance of not overselling but also not underselling? So that was constantly a thing that was I was navigating with. I remember it was such a difficult process. And I still only applied to Oxbridge, which was Oxford and Cambridge. I was constantly in touch with my supervisors, but also with other people who had been doing a PhD. And there was nobody from South Asia in the criminology department at that time. I remember there was one girl who later came from Nepal, but I had nobody who I can look up to and say, okay,
Yeah.
they had done it, so I can do it. So I was the first South Asian to actually get in Cambridge
Yes.
or get Cambridge scholarship in criminology. And I still
Hello.
remain the first South
We
Asian.
could just share one thing maybe because I've changed your journey a little bit late, but if it makes you feel better, I hope it does. You have already been translating that mentoring necessity into a full form application lab, right? You have been building the well, I know why you did because we have talked about a lot. Mentoring needs to be like this is how mentees need to be. But the fact that in that channel, if it makes you feel better, a lot more people are taking interest in criminology, especially at Oxford. There's a reason for that. You're chatting a very nice president here.
Oh, thank you so much, Khaula. It means a lot. But yes, and that's why I created the application lab because I have
Like,
been mentoring in some capacity or the other for a very long time, very informally at first. So it started with just helping friends and peers or juniors who were applying for programs abroad, especially in criminology, because it is a niche
yeah.
field. And then in the beginning, I'll be very honest, I struggled with a lot of like imposter syndrome. So I would think, who am I to mentor anybody? I just got here by sheer luck. And I think as women and as South Asian women, as brown women, we tend to sort of like feel that we are not worthy to be here. We just got here because luck was in our favor. And I felt this hesitation a lot, like, what do I even have to offer? And by over time, I
Oh,
realized
okay. You have a lot to offer, though.
And I realized how alone I had felt during my own application process, and that loneliness stayed with me. And that's when me and my co founder, Vishal, who's also a Cambridge alumni, started thinking about creating something more intentional, a space where people could connect with mentors and with each other as well.
Yeah,
And that's how the application lab was born early this year. The idea wasn't just about offering guidance, it was about community. We wanted people to feel like you're not alone in this, that the fear, the self doubt, the overwhelm, it's all natural and we've all felt it. Over time, mentorship for me has also evolved from just giving advice and guidance to really being part of somebody's journey. Because for many people, this process, applying, moving to countries, chasing a dream becomes a major turning point in their
yeah,
life. So to be a small part of that feels almost sacred. And I see my role as a mentor like, being like a lighthouse. So you're not
yes,
staring
yeah.
anybody, you're not charting their course, but you're
Yeah,
there, steady,
just come there.
of light
Yeah,
when the sea feels uncertain.
yeah,
So the journey is theirs, but sometimes all we need is a faint light to remind us that we are not lost. And so I see myself as that lighthouse. And I
yeah,
remember every single one of my mentors as well who have helped me in this journey. And now seeing that come full circle is incredibly meaningful, where I am doing the same thing for others.
yeah,
And very recently, one of my mentees tagged me in an Instagram post where she had written letters to herself and journal entries mentioning me. And she said how much it meant to her that I believed in her at the time when she couldn't believe in herself, and how I helped her came out of that dark space.
yeah,
And I was honestly so moved because you don't always realize in that moment that sometimes your words, your encouragement can become like such a turning point in someone's life.
yeah,
Um, and she's obviously doing like a criminology degree in Edinburgh with a full scholarship. But I just it just moves me when I get these messages of how much we have made a difference in their lives. And I think this is what is the most satisfying feeling. And eh, being having been associated with the application lab, founding it, being a part of the community that we have created, which is around 2,000 people now and more,
yeah.
is just the most satisfying thing that I have done this year and most fulfilling. And it reminds me that mentorship isn't just about success, it's about walking alongside someone as they figure things out and being there for the highs and lows as well.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean, it's one of the most beautiful things to mentor someone and to see their whole journey
yeah,
being fruit
yeah. Yeah.
and being part of that journey. I'm sure
That's
you must be
right.
feeling the same.
Yeah, yeah, I'm very proud of you too. And within my consultancy, I've been grounding myself in mentor and I'm not. But remember in our very earlier chat, we talked about how mentoring, like you said, it's very sacred. It has to be respected. It's an honorable practice on both sides. You never know who is changing because of your single advice and all. It going beyond that. But the dark side to mentoring, if we can talk about it, it can really take a toll on our mental health. Oh my God, I want to help you all, but I can't.
Oh my God. So there's no real disappointment in this journey, except that
Yeah,
maybe we not help everyone in the way we want to because of
yeah,
the limited capacity, and it takes a big toll on your mental health.
yeah.
You're very right. And I think people don't talk about it often because there's no space to talk about it. As mentors, you are supposed to like adorn that sort of
Get it
arm and
together.
like, confident, got it all together. And everybody's like, how do you do this, Kanupriya? You've got it all together. But I know inside, like, I'm like sometimes just not feeling right. There are moments when I've had like real mental breakdowns because I haven't been able to help people the way I've wanted to. Or I could not be available for people at the time when they really wanted me to be available because I was myself going through a big existential crisis. Because being in academia is not easy. So that takes a toll on you. You have this burden of representation because you want to do your best because you're making way for other people like you in academia. And then you're mentoring people saying that I'm with you, but not every mentorship leads to success. And their lows are my lows. So I feel really affected at times. And I feel nobody really teaches you to how to distance yourself from the mentee when it comes to the time when they're also feeling a bit
Yeah,
low and you
yeah,
need to sort of get that professional distance because you cannot maintain that professional distance because you've been so involved in each other's lives. Um,
yeah,
and I mean, Vishal would know, but me and him both have had our really hard moments where we have not slept, where we have been like, we are on vacations, but we are not really taking a vacation because we are constantly worried about people we've been mentoring. We never really take a break. There are moments I've left my lunches, my dinners, because I think somebody else needs me before I need to do anything for myself. And
yeah,
I think it is unhealthy because it you don't have to do it to yourself. But
yeah,
I also
yes,
feel so accountable for all those 2,000 people. And there's no space, and which is why we last talked, we said that we should create that
yeah,
space.
yeah,
Just like ourselves who are dealing with so much of their own sort of struggles, but also helping other people
yeah,
navigate through their struggles. It's almost like when counselors do counseling,
yeah.
but they need counseling themselves,
Yeah,
and they need to take.
we need therapy. We need like a group for therapizing each other.
Yes, I agree. I'm totally for it. We should create one, a column. I
Yeah, we
think
can, we can.
there are so many people like us who are doing this important work, but doing it all alone.
Yeah, yeah,
They need a space where they can be heard, where they can also vent out, where they can vent out and talk about some of the challenges they're facing. Because also, people trust you so much with their journeys. Like sometimes, people message me like, I'm taking this mentorship, but I've put in all, and if it doesn't happen this year, I don't know what will happen. Like my whole world will fall apart. And you feel like, oh my God,
yeah,
like a
yeah,
person is trusting me with their life, and if it doesn't happen or if it doesn't turn into success, what is it for me and him or her?
yeah,
So it's just it's a lot of pressure. Like it's not something that I take lightly, but also uh it comes with a lot of emotional psychological burden, and that is
yeah.
something we're talking about more.
I was talking to my best friend just about this last month that so if one of my mentees or clients they do not get the results on time, it is on me or it is just blame it on the universe, blame it on your God or whatever. But he was like he gave me a very good piece of advice. He said You are just an enabler. You are a catalyst. You're just paving the way for them. Imagine
Right.
not having even that in your life,
Yeah.
not having that. It's something like, enabling you, encouraging you, nudging you. Come on, try it out. You try your shot. This is much better than, like you said, not having anyone in your corner. That's what.
Exactly. I mean, you rightly said that because I remember like just a couple of weeks back, I was struggling a lot with my own sort of academic struggles of like, what do I do next?
Yeah,
Which fellowship should I apply to? Like, because it's a never-ending process in academia. And I was so low at that one point. I told my partner that, I think I just cannot mentor other people because I haven't got my own shit together. And he said, no,
that is
Kanupriya,
true.
like, you should see at the community that you've built. And there's so many people who are looking up to you. And not just because you've done so much, but
Yeah,
because your journey, they would learn from your journey, from the
yeah,
mistakes that you did so that they don't repeat the same mistakes. So don't feel like you're not doing enough because you're doing more than enough. I think
yeah, yeah.
very few people just
More than
realize that.
enough.
Yeah. And I think we need to say that to ourselves as mentors, that we are doing enough, that we are doing as much as we can for those people and
Yep.
not feel the guilt that comes with being a mentor, which is what if it doesn't work out for them?
Yeah,
The guilt is real, but I think we need spaces
yeah,
to sort of like navigate that guilt and navigate those feelings of
yeah,
like
yeah,
fear. What if it isn't successful? What if we're not able to help as many people? What if something wrong happens to the mentee or
yeah,
like their journey is affected because of us because we didn't guide them correctly? It's a huge onus to take. But yeah, it's been really tough. But when I look at the community that I've built, honestly, Kala, it's such a blessing. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
so many people um, have come up to me and said that, I have created something for them that they are so thankful for and so grateful for. And that's what success is for me,
yeah.
like
You
in
can
mental.
actually, I think you can actually think about the tangible outcome and the intangible. It's not spoken about, but you can feel the outcome changing. It's gradual. Someone else is stepping up to guide in the same way that you are guiding. Accurate guidance, not clutter, noise, inaccurate feedback. No, we are just guiding them in a way. It's guidance. How you take out of it is on the main thing. That's how the pressure can be kind of lifted off us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
if I have to move you forward, although I don't want to stop chatting with you, I really enjoyed this so far. But you're in a postdoc. If you have to look back, the work you are doing for criminology, community, get into the system. Are you still on that path?
Yes, so I'm a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Nottingham. So right now my work focuses on ethnicity and resistance from crime. So essentially how racialized and minoritized individuals in the UK navigate the processes of leaving crime behind. So I interviewed British Asian people,
Um,
Black African, and Black Caribbean people um, who are under probation, supervision, or licensing conditions, and trying to understand what helps or hinders them leading a crime-free life. And it's such an interesting and humbling experience because not just as a researcher, but as a brown immigrant woman in these spaces, right?
yeah,
Because you become very aware of how people perceive you, what they see when they see you. And in these conversations about race, belonging, and identity, you realize how deeply racialization shapes everyday life in the UK.
yes,
And many of the people I have spoken to were born and brought up here. So they hold British passports, they speak with British accents, but they've never really felt like they belong. And it makes you question what belonging truly means. Because in the end, passports don't guarantee belonging. What matters is who the state and the society sees you as. And I want to continue with that work. It's really interesting, but also want to continue building on my PhD research, which is why I'm trying to sort of apply for independent fellowships now, because I want to continue looking at women's incarceration experiences, of how they make sense of their own offenses and how those personal narratives intersect or collide with the legal narratives of their offenses. It's still a developing idea, but hopefully I will build something out of it. And of course,
Yeah,
my
you
big
will.
my application lab, I want to expand its reach, help more people, especially from the global south, access opportunities, mentorship, community, because ultimately all of this, my research, my mentoring, my advocacy, it's connected to
Yeah,
one thing, the
yeah,
belief that you don't move forward alone.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and I think of it as a relay race. Each of us receives the baton from those who came before us.
yeah.
And then we carry it for a while, doing our part before passing it on. So it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
about competition. It's about continuity. It's about collective progress, about ensuring that the next person doesn't start from zero.
yeah,
Um, and we all are in it together. Um, I'm hopeful that we can create a space, which is of solidarity, which is of collective belonging, which is of collective progress. Um, and yeah, we'll move forward and we'll help other people move forward as well.
yeah,
And I really think we can make a difference. I mean, you are making a difference to a lot of
yeah.
people's lives. And
Thank you
so,
very much. Actually, when I started out, I was hoping we would have mushroom, right? Lots of mushroom mentor around. It took a bit of a longer time because I will be honest with you. If you're running a business, your first focus is making money. It gets very dirty that way. But I'm so
yeah,
glad my consultancy like it's enabling people to come on, join the mentoring space because that way when I do pro bono, which I absolutely love, you understand okay, you are actually very privileged, no matter how you label that. You're very privileged. And I want to like feel better about using my privilege to help someone who's not so privileged, maybe mentally not privileged to come out of this. It's a huge responsibility. And money doesn't matter anymore. This is more important. So I have been
exactly.
seeing lots of labs, like, there's an accountability lab. If you want to change the name someday. uh,
Wow. So we will be running an accountability circle because one of our community members
yeah,
pitched this idea. Let's start an accountability circle and let's start keeping each other
yeah, whole
accountable
hours
for the
time. Yeah,
progress we are making. And I thought that was really interesting. And we would obviously have a lot more ideas in place of how we envision the application lab in future.
yeah,
Um, but right now, it's all about giving back to the community because none of us want to run on this journey alone.
yeah,
Um, and I have been running all alone, and I know how isolating it can be and how
yeah,
much it took a toll on my mental health. And I don't want that for anybody.
yeah,
So
yeah.
the first starting point towards something bigger that we can together make.
Yeah.
Um,
You have given us lots of things and lots of advice, but any personal reflection for someone now starting the program, especially like PhD, so much pressure.
um, I would just say be brave, be fearless, and have faith in the process and in the work that you're doing. Be passionate about your research because that will take you to places. And don't be afraid of losing, of not succeeding, because we've all been through it where we've not always succeeded.
I love
But
that.
that's the learning that teaches us the most important lesson. So yeah, don't be afraid of losing. Just be at it, be consistent, be passionate, and be fearless. Don't try to fit your research into Western templates. You don't need to do that. We have so much to offer to them, uh, and just believe in that knowledge that you are going to create and the knowledge that you want to offer to this part
Yeah.
of the world. So yeah, that'll be my advice.
Thank you so much. And I do want to add my own personal reflection on this. I think as alumni and graduates, we do have this responsibility to kind of feedback to the program that you can encourage applicants not to stick to your research interest but find a commonality here. I feel like we have so much to offer to the program as graduates and fans. This is something I have been thinking out loud and I couldn't find any other person to share with and I found the best one.
Oh, thank you, Kola. It really means a lot. It's always so wonderful to chat with you. Like, I'm so happy that we
Yeah,
connected because I feel we both just are on the same page when it comes to our ethos in regards to mentorship and our
yeah,
approach to mentorship. And I think that's really, really important. And like I said, sacred to both of us.
yeah.
Um,
Thank you.
Continue the work that we've been doing and make more spaces for people coming behind us,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
not let anybody do this alone.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you very much. It's been such an honor, and I know the impact will continue. Sometimes it's not obvious, it's not overnight. Although I can talk a bit more about how much patience it takes for you to wait for the outcome, right? To wait for this. It's a year-long thing here, and I'm like, I can't have that patience.
Yeah. In fact, a lot of people have been asking me, oh, do you have other applicants who've been successful? And I'm like, yes, but in the past, but right now everybody's in that journey.
We're
So it's
still
very
on that.
hard to say
Yeah,
who will make it and who won't. And oh my God, and we have 2,000 people that we're banking on.
yeah,
So I just hope everyone makes it in some or the other capacity. But this is just a journey
yep,
for something great to come. So I always tell them that if it doesn't happen this year, it will happen eventually in other ways, in other forms. And you would
yeah,
never know how your hard work that you've put in one place gives you results in some
and
other
then,
manner.
yep, yep,
Just have faith. It will happen. It will happen.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so yeah, it has happened to me. Like it's happened to me in the weirdest of forms and in weirdest of manners where I never expected it to happen. Like my hard work
yeah,
somewhere else has given me fruit somewhere else. So I
yeah,
always feel that hard work will always reap benefits, will
yeah.
always. So don't just lose hope. Just be at it.
Thank you very much, Kanupriya. I'm very glad. Thank you for being with me.
Oh, thank you so much, Kala. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you.